so this is Green Room Candor, episode 3,200.
Oh, that was good. Way to go, Becc.
And the topic is, this is a very meaty one. We got 10 minutes to do it, so all of y'all have to be more brief. The true state of the industry. The true state of the sales industry. What your view is on where it's at, if it's in a bad place, what's a tip to where should it go? When you look at the sales industry,
Okay,
where do you think it's at?
I want to start with this one.
Ooh, way to go.
Title.
In my opinion, I'm really optimistic about the sales industry. I believe we're at an era where we see automation and AI taking control of a lot of things, which pushes people to focus on what's essential. Let me get into the details. SDR, BDRs, and AEs, I think the entire model is broken. I think in 5 years, we will not see any more SDR, any more BDR spending 80% of their time going to the CRM, copy pasting data, checking that the data is accurate, finding the leads to reach out to. I think all of that, because it can already be automated, it will take 5 to 10 years from most org to basically understand that it's a waste of time and that they shouldn't do this. Which means that we're gonna have a lot more sellers who are gonna wonder, how can I improve? How can I step up my game? And what they're gonna do is start understanding all the methodologies that you guys are preaching and teaching, which is understanding the buyer, understanding the problem, be much more of a consultant rather than just the guy who's checking the data, trying to book meetings, and then I'm gone. So I believe sales is gonna be much more focused on the problem, much more focused on relationship, and much more focused on trust. And to build trust, people are gonna need to become expert in the problems they solve. And I believe that in the next years, we're gonna see more and more salespeople focusing also on their brand, focusing also on creating content to build that trust with the buyers in order to showcase that they are the expert and that they can be trusted and they're not just there to close more deals. That's my vision.
I love your vision. I'm not as hopeful.
Okay.
And I'm the most positive person I've ever met. But
Why?
from what I've seen, from what I've observed, and we've been on the road for 3 weeks, dropping knowledge, dropping gems.
He's lost all hope on the road.
No,
Yeah.
but the human element. You talked about AI, automation, which is great, but the human element, the ability to communicate, the ability to critically think. I think you talked about that last night, Keenan. I don't see that. I don't, and it's sad. I hate to say that, but this is just my observation, and it's one of those things. When I played baseball, there was nothing worse than someone who didn't maximize their talent. That's what I see in the state of sales. There's so many talented folks who, I wouldn't even say the sky's the limit. There is no limit, but they put a limit on it for multiple reasons. I'm not going to say everyone's lazy because that's not the case. I'm not going to say that we enable it, organizations enable it, but those are some of the things I've witnessed. Organizations where sellers don't care. They don't give a damn. It's the give a damn factor. If you're going to be on my team, you better give a damn. And there's sellers that they're there punching in, they're clocking in, they're just there, just showing up without investing in themselves. We joke around about practice, but any craft, I don't care if it's music, I don't care if it's athletics, I don't care if it's sales, you got to practice. And you're not going to practice if you don't care, if you don't give a damn, if you don't care about yourself, if you don't care about your colleagues, your organization, if you don't care about your prospects and your clients. It shows, and I think you say it, show me, don't tell me. And my mom used to say, your actions speak so loud, I can't hear what you're saying. And when I observe the actions, I mean, I don't want to put them on blast, but Atlanta, where you at? Is everyone in Atlanta a superstar seller? Where you at? You got an opportunity to learn from some of the best, some new ideas that aren't in the echo chamber that we hear over and over and over again. And you're not there? Come on, man. It doesn't make any damn sense. So I want to be optimistic, but I can't because of my observations. I had to get that shit off my chest.
You think they won't get there?
Larry saved
I'm-
the best for
I'm
last.
gonna be honest. I'm not as hopeful. I'm not as hopeful. And the reason why I'm not as hopeful is because I've witnessed it with my own eyes. There's a I know you're in the data. There's a small percentage that actually give a damn based on their actions. Now, everyone, when you interview them, when you put the microphone, oh yeah, I care.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, I'm determined. No, you're not.
Yeah.
No, you're not. Let me look at your calendar. Let me look at what was the last book you read. Book? How do you spell that?
Like that woman who I suggested that she spent $250.
And she was fighting. She was battling you on that.
Yes.
She was coming up with every excuse.
Yeah.
And she, once again, it makes me sad because she's not the only one.
And it was like, there was a, not too much, but I'm thinking of this on the fly. Like you thought, I was like, man, if I was in her, I'd be doing this right. If I was in her shoes, I was like, oh, it's a fucking brilliant idea.
I love it.
Yeah, this is great.
I'm
love
gonna
it.
apply for that
Yeah,
job.
yeah, just so I can do it. I mean, giving to charity, getting into the fucking program she wants to
That
get. I
was
mean,
good.
sell to the biggest company she wants to sell to, getting their attention. And she couldn't get past $250.
She had the blinders on.
Yeah.
I can't do it. I gotta
Well,
talk
and
to
it
my
wasn't even
organization.
$250. It was asking her leader to approve a $250 expense.
Yeah.
Keep going.
It's somewhat disheartening, and I hope I'm wrong. I seriously, I hope and pray that I'm wrong, because for me, there's nothing more beautiful than sales, because my definition of sales, it's similar to yours, but I think we're playing matchmaker. We're matching someone else's needs, wants, desires, their hopes, their dreams, their aspirations with what we have. That's beautiful. That's absolutely beautiful. There's nothing better from my perspective to be able to help other people get to where they want to get to. And I think we're fumbling. I think that's a football reference. I think we're fumbling the bag. The opportunity is there right at our fingertips, and oh no. And it doesn't have to be that way. It doesn't. I mean, if we're going to keep it real, and this is me finally keeping it real, it doesn't have to be that way. But I just don't see the light at the end of the tunnel, because there's so many moving parts. It's systemic. You got the SDRs, the BDRs, the AEs, the managers. I use that term loosely. The manager, they were the top sales rep. They were the top SDR, and now they're a leader. Who's teaching them? Who's guiding them? Who's helping them? And are they even open to be, I could do it the best in the business. I can lead this team. Survey says, nah. What are you doing to grow as a leader? What are you doing to really serve your employees that you're leading? So I hate to say it, and I hope I'm proven wrong. We'll have to take a look at this in 3 years and in 5 years, but I just don't see. I'm not as hopeful.
Whose responsibility, and we'll over to you, whose responsibility, or as I would say, an opportunity, is it to fix it, and is it to change?
Yeah, it falls on all of us. It falls on the entire community, and it starts from the top. But it's not only the top. It's taking responsibility and looking in the mirror and saying, you know what, I'm going to do differently. Whether you're an SDR right out of college, and it pains me to hear SDRs. We were just the other day in Salt Lake City, and I think they shared, well, I'm just new in the position, so what? Who cares? You got great
Start running.
perspectives.
Yeah.
You have a brain
Yeah.
that's unique, that you can, this is the most powerful operating system that anyone has. And that's what separates us from AI. I am not a robot. I have a brain that I can critically think. And I just don't see that. I don't see folks sitting back and actually thinking through and asking themselves the question before it's kind of being lazy. My first job out of college was at Accenture. I learned two things. Number one, it's about the details. Number two, don't go ask someone a question without using all your available resources. That's so easy to do in theory, but in actuality, we make it tough. So to answer your question, it starts with us. And I think that's why we were out on tour, to share that knowledge. And I do love to see people spreading that knowledge. The worst thing you can do is keep it to yourself, but we need more. Kind of like COVID. We need to spread these droplets all over if we want to see change.
Larry, that was your best one this whole tour. Why you been holding out, man? That was good, 100,000%. I don't know that I have much more to add other than what Guillaume said. Is I believe that because of, I don't even want to call it AI. I'm just not going to call it AI. Everybody's talking about AI. Look, call me a naysayer. I'm excited for it to come, but it's not really good yet. There, like half the reason I don't use Siri is because it's 80% successful.
Yeah.
Like and I'm a person, if something starts to work, I get reliant on it. But if I try to do something, it doesn't work once or twice, I'm like, fuck it. Like I just forget, Siri, give me directions to this. And next thing I know, she's like, oh, you want to call so-and-so? Try it again. No, fuck it. Then I stop thinking about it. So anyways, I'm on a sidetrack, right?
I can see that.
Oh my God, it drives me insane.
Keenan in the metaverse, like the guy last night was talking about.
Yeah. So I think that when you talk about outreach in SalesLoft platforms, and you talk about Gong and Chorus platforms, and you talk about all this stuff, there was this renaissance where we started seeing that you could use technology to streamline and make sales more effective and efficient. And to a certain degree, yes. But what everybody's forgetting is that sales is still, and everybody listen to me, watch what I do here. At the end of the day, none of that matters. If you cannot uncover the challenges and issues that a buyer is struggling with and understand why they need to change, period. You can have all the fucking sequence building shit in the world. You can have all the video recorders in the world. But here's a good example with the video recorder. How many people, Becc, you're gonna like this, how many people that use Gong have actually systematized and or listed what are the skill sets that you're working on with a rep when you're watching that, number one. And number two, if you have them, why do you have them, and where do you think that is going to help them get to a close? So because of all that, we can't do, or we've lost the ability to actually sell. Because let me be real, everybody. All this shit you've put out here is not helping people sell. It's not. None of it's helping you sell. The selling part is the human part, and it's the ability to understand, and the business part, the ability to understand their business, the problems, issues, challenges, how they impact the organization, and what's causing it. To my knowledge, other than plug gap selling, there is nothing that helps you do that from a technology perspective. So do I have hope? I'm gonna leave Larry and those two to play that realm. All I can say is until you recognize that in all of that stuff, if you are not focusing on actually teaching people and reinforcing how to sell every day and have a method for that sales, I don't give a fuck with your method. Don't use gap selling, I don't give a shit. But you better have a method, and you better test it, and you be staying in front of it and evaluating it, and then assessing what skill sets maximize. Like, we've lost track of the human tool. We're too busy in the technology tool. And I don't care what anybody says, not in my lifetime, maybe in my kids' lifetime when they're older than me now, and maybe my grandkids' lifetime, someone might figure out AI to actually sell. Not take an order, not pitch, but sell, to be that complex as the customer's talking to you, it's processing. Until then, it's still the human piece.
The human element, I love it.
Yeah.
And what you just shared is there is an opportunity out there.
Yeah.
But the question is, who's going to seize the opportunity? That is the question.
What was
Take
that?
us home. Take us home, Becc.
I think in Equip, it's in a really dangerous spot. I think it's been in a dangerous spot for a while now, but certainly where we're at currently, and that's a lot of mix of factors. But I think the main reason we are in the dangerous spot is we have no identity right now. So for hundreds of years, thousands of years, people have been selling towards product description. Then we, evolved to feature, and then we evolved to benefit, and we got a little better along the way. And then when we got to pain in the 60s, I think that sellers are understanding and SDRs are understanding. They get that it's better in their head, but then when they deploy it, or at least in my experience and all the sellers I talk to, it still feels manipulative, and it still feels like I'm convincing you, and it still feels
Pain, you mean?
yes, it still feels sleazy, and it still feels slimy, and it still feels like I'm trying to bend someone's mind. And we've had a ton of techniques, and we've had a ton of objection handles, and they get newer, and they get faster, and they get better. And what all of that has caused, from my perspective, is we now are at the point where we know what we're not, We don't want to be product-centric sellers, and we don't want to sell based on features, and we don't want any of that. But because the options to deck that we've seen over the last, 60 years or so have been either pain-based or technique-based or challenge-based or based on a set of questions, we can still feel in our guts that it's the same shit. So we're staying static, that we're like, there is no option to turn it. So we know that we're not this, but no one from my view has really, or as an industry, we haven't gripped teeth into what we actually are. So we've clutched to a lot of different things. Maybe you sell based on personality style, or get them to like you, or get them open up to be human and kind and empathetic and etc. And I feel like no one's having the true discussion of like, there is no core essence around what this function is. If it's not any of this slimy, sleazy crap, and I think we're just understanding that pain actually wasn't as we thought it was the solution, but it wasn't, and we're now feeling that. Yeah, and we're feeling that in our bones, and so now people are like, okay, so we know what it's not, but where is it actually? And the reason I say that's a dangerous spot is now retiring are the people who really worked towards the craft, regardless of whether or not they got the answer right. They worked. They labored. They put out books and trainings and methodologies, and they labored. And what worries me, as I talk to your point, everyone who's in their 20s and everyone in their 30s, is I don't feel the same love for the craft and commitment to discipline.
They didn't have to execute the
right, to where it, right.
Doing shit on technology.
To what I don't feel the discipline I don't feel the commitment, the vision, the drive that all drives the discipline that would cause a new era to issue in, which I would hope is based on problem. So am I hopeful? Well, like it's gonna turn into something either way. So I feel an immense amount of responsibility as these thought leaders retire to rip it in any way that I can towards something that means something again. And truly, it was all these techniques in the past, and it was all the same stuff. It was just better and better versions of manipulating. So how can we shift that for the first time in history to something that is helping the buyer? So I worry about it every night, like literally every night, that I'm like, because it's not going to take one book. It's going to take hundreds of books. It's going to take thousands of reps of deployment. It's going to take technology that supports that. It's going to take the vision behind the technology of how do you deploy it in the right way. It's going to take methodologies. It's going to take the universities gobbling all of that up, and teaching it to students as they come in. It's going to take thought leaders. It's going to take influencers. It's going to have to be a global effort all towards the same thing. So I'm like, can it get there? I certainly don't believe in my lifetime. But when you love the craft, it doesn't matter. You labor and you run your race either way towards it. But I do think we're in an interesting crux. I hope for the best. You plan for the worst always. But I think it's going to become something in the next 100 years. My end-all, be-all passion and desire is that it pivots to something that's actually helping the buyer. And I just hope that A, it gets there, and B, that I could spend every last breath of my career trying to get it there as best as I could. So I know that's a weird end, but I want to thank you three for joining me in that effort on tour.
Thank you, everyone.
Tour 3.
Yeah, it was really cool.
That was Green Room Candor, San Francisco.
Frisco!
True state of the industry.
I want my rice-a-roni.